They finally see how much they miss you when you do this. Dark psychology secrets. Stoicism. What if I told you that the moment you stop chasing someone, they suddenly realize what they've lost? What if the secret to making people miss you isn't about doing more, but about doing less? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand a psychological principle so powerful that it can completely transform how people perceive and value you. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding human nature at its core. I'm going to share with you the dark psychology secrets that the ancient Stoics understood thousands of years ago, combined with modern psychological research that explains exactly why this works. We'll cover 7 specific strategies that will make people realize your true worth, but I need you to promise me something first. Promise me you'll watch this entire video before you try any of these techniques. Because understanding the why behind these principles is just as important as the how. And if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We're building a community of people who understand the deeper truths about human psychology. Chapter 1, The Psychology of Absence. Let me start with the story that will illustrate everything we're about to discuss. There was a man named Marcus, and before you ask, yes, this is inspired by Marcus Aurelius, but this is a modern story. Marcus worked at a company where he was always the go-to person. Every problem, every crisis, every late-night emergency, Marcus was there. He answered emails within minutes, stayed late, came in early, and made himself completely available to everyone. His colleagues took him for granted. His boss barely acknowledged his efforts. His friends knew they could cancel plans last minute because Marcus would understand. His romantic interests knew he'd always be there, waiting. Then Marcus discovered Stoicism. He learned about a principle that changed everything, the law of scarcity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. But there's a deeper truth here. When you're always available, always eager, always chasing, you become like air, essential but taken for granted. Modern psychology calls this the scarcity principle. Professor Robert Cialdini's research shows that we assign more value to things that are less available. When something or someone is always there, our brains literally stop noticing them. Think about it. When was the last time you truly appreciated the air you breathe? Only when you're underwater, right? The same principle applies to relationships, careers, and how people perceive your worth. So Marcus began implementing what I call strategic withdrawal. Not out of spite, not out of manipulation, but out of self-respect and understanding of human psychology. And the results? Within weeks, people began reaching out. His boss started noticing his contributions. His friends began making an effort to keep plans. And that romantic interest who always kept him on the back burner? Suddenly, they were the one calling. But here's what's crucial. This isn't about playing games. This is about understanding your own value and communicating it effectively. Let's dive into the first strategy. Chapter 2. Strategy 1. The Power of Selective Availability. The first dark psychology secret is what I call selective availability. This isn't about becoming completely unavailable. That's just being rude. This is about being strategically choosy about when, how, and to whom you give your time and energy. The Stoics had a concept called preferred indifference, things that are neither good nor bad in themselves, but can be preferred or not preferred based on our values. Your time and attention are preferred. Indifference, they should be allocated based on what aligns with your values and goals. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was the friend everyone called when they needed to vent, but who rarely got invited to the fun events. She was the employee who always said yes to extra work, but who got passed over for promotions. Sound familiar? Sarah learned to implement selective availability. She started by auditing her time for 1 week. Every interaction, every request, every interruption, she wrote it down. What she discovered shocked her. 80% of her time was going to people and activities that added no value to her life or theirs. She was enabling others' lack of planning and self-reliance while sacrificing her own growth and well-being. Here's how you implement selective availability starting today. First, the 24-hour rule. When someone asks you to do something that isn't urgent, say, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." This creates a pause that allows you to evaluate whether this aligns with your priorities. Second, the value assessment. Before saying yes to anything, ask yourself 3 questions. Does this serve my goals? Does this serve their highest good? Is this the best use of my time right now? Third, the graceful decline. When you do say no, offer an alternative when appropriate. "I can't help you move this weekend, but I know a great moving company," or "I can't stay late tonight, but I can come in early tomorrow to help with this." Within a month, Sarah noticed something remarkable. The people who truly valued her began making more effort to connect with her. The superficial relationships naturally faded away. Her boss began seeing her as more senior and strategic rather than just helpful, and she had time and energy for the things that actually mattered to her. Why does this work? It's based on what psychologists call the effort justification effect. When people have to work harder to access something, they value it more. By being selectively available, you're not just protecting your time, you're actually helping others. Appreciate your true worth. Chapter 3, Strategy 2, The Art of Strategic Silence. The second strategy might be the most powerful, and it's something the Stoics mastered: strategic silence. In our hyper-connected world, silence has become incredibly rare and therefore incredibly valuable. Epictetus taught, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But there's a deeper psychological principle at work here. Dr. Adam Grant's research at Wharton shows that in negotiations, the person who speaks first after a proposal often loses power. But this principle extends far beyond negotiations. It applies to every aspect of human interaction. Let me tell you about David. He was in a relationship where he always initiated contact. Good morning texts, checking in throughout the day, making plans, resolving conflicts. He was putting in 90% of the communication effort. His partner had become completely passive in the relationship, knowing that David would always reach out first, always make the effort, always be the one to smooth things over after disagreements. Then David learned about strategic silence. Not the silent treatment. That's manipulation and emotional abuse. Strategic silence is different. It's about creating space for others to step forward and show their investment in the relationship. Here's how strategic silence works in practice. Phase 1. The communication. Audit. David tracked who initiated contact over 2 weeks. The results were eye-opening. He initiated 85% of all conversations. Phase 2. The strategic. Pause. Instead of immediately responding to texts or messages, David began taking time to respond thoughtfully. Not playing games, but being intentional rather than reactive. Phase 3. The space creation. David stopped being the first to reach out every day. He waited to see who would make the effort. What happened next will surprise you. For the first few days, his partner barely noticed. But by day 4, they sent their first good morning text in months. By week 2, they were initiating conversations regularly. By month 1, the relationship had transformed into something more balanced and reciprocal. This works because of what psychologists call variable ratio reinforcement. When rewards come unpredictably, they become more valuable. By not always being the first to reach out, David made his communication more valuable, not less. This applies in professional settings, too. Instead of immediately jumping into every conversation or meeting, strategic silence allows you to observe dynamics before contributing. Let others show their hand first. Make your contributions more impactful when you do speak. Position yourself as thoughtful rather than reactive. Remember, this isn't about being passive or disengaged. It's about being strategic with your words and responses, making them count more when you do use them. Chapter 4. Strategy 3. Emotional unavailability. Now, before you click away thinking this is about being cold or manipulative, hear me out. When I say emotional unavailability, Troy, I'm not talking about being emotionally closed off or manipulative. I'm talking about something the Stoics called apatheia, a state of emotional resilience and self-regulation. Seneca wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the foundation of healthy, emotional unavailability. Meet Jennifer. She was the emotional support system for everyone in her life. Friends called her at all hours to process their problems. Family members expected her to manage their emotional crises. Her romantic partners became dependent on her for emotional regulation. Jennifer was emotionally overavailable, and it was destroying her. She was anxious, exhausted, and ironically, people were taking her for granted despite all her emotional labor. Here's what Jennifer didn't understand. When you're always emotionally available, you enable others' emotional immaturity. You prevent them from developing their own coping skills. And paradoxically, they respect you less because you've made yourself too emotionally accessible. Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion shows that people who maintain healthy, emotional boundaries are actually more helpful to others in the long run. They can provide support without becoming emotionally depleted. Jennifer learned to implement what I call compassionate boundaries. She began responding to emotional demands with phrases like, "That sounds really challenging. What do you think you're going to do about it? I can see you're upset. Have you considered talking to a professional about this? I care about you, but I'm not in a position to help with this right now." First, emotional self-regulation. Before you respond to someone else's emotional state, check in with your own. Are you responding from a place of strength or depletion? Second, encouraging self-reliance. Instead of immediately jumping in to fix or soothe, ask questions that help others find their own solutions. Third, strategic empathy. You can understand someone's emotions without absorbing them. Empathy doesn't require you to carry their emotional burden. The results were remarkable. Jennifer's relationships became healthier. People stopped treating her like an emotional dumping ground and started seeing her as someone with valuable insights. Her romantic relationships improved because partners had to develop their own emotional skills rather than relying on her. This isn't about being callous or uncaring. It's about loving people enough to not enable their emotional dependency. It's about being emotionally available when it serves the highest good, not just because it's expected. In professional settings, this looks like not absorbing your colleagues' workplace drama, not being the office therapist, and maintaining your emotional equilibrium even in high-stress situations. Ask yourself, are you emotionally overavailable? Do people seek you out only when they need emotional support, but not when they want to celebrate successes? If so, it might be time to implement some compassionate boundaries. Chapter 5. Strategy for the Mystery Factor. The fourth strategy might seem counterintuitive in our oversharing world, maintaining an element of mystery. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology has confirmed. Predictability breeds contempt, while mystery generates fascination. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, revealed very little about his personal thoughts and feelings to others. His meditations were private writings never intended for publication. He understood that a leader must maintain some mystery to maintain respect and influence. Dr. Aaron and colleagues found that relationships are most exciting when there's an element of uncertainty and novelty. When people can completely predict your reactions, thoughts, and behaviors, they lose interest. Let me tell you about Robert. He was an open book. First date? He'd share his entire life story. New job? He'd tell everyone exactly what he was thinking about every situation. Social media? Every thought, every meal, every emotion was documented and shared. Robert was confused why people seemed to lose interest in him quickly, why conversations felt one-sided, why he struggled to maintain long-term relationships, both personally and professionally. Then Robert learned about the psychology of mystery. He realized that by sharing everything, he was eliminating the natural human curiosity that draws people toward each other. Robert began implementing what I call strategic revelation, sharing information in layers rather than all at once. Level 1, surface information. What you do, where you're from, basic facts that anyone could discover. Level 2, perspectives and opinions. How you think about things, your worldview, your values. Level 3, personal experiences. Stories from your past, challenges you've overcome, lessons you've learned. Level 4, vulnerabilities and dreams. Your deepest fears, your biggest aspirations, your most personal struggles. The key is that each level should be earned, not freely given. People should have to invest time, attention, and emotional energy to access deeper levels of who you are. In conversations, this means answering questions without volunteering extra information unless asked. Sharing stories that reveal character without explaining every detail of your psychology. Being present and engaged while maintaining some personal boundaries. On social media, mystery looks like posting interesting content without explaining every detail of your personal life. Sharing achievements without documenting every step of the process. Being active without being completely transparent about your daily routine. In professional settings, not sharing every detail of your methods or strategies. Letting your results speak louder than your explanations. Being helpful without revealing all your expertise at once. Within 6 months, Robert noticed significant changes. People were more curious about him. Conversations became more engaging because others were asking questions, rather than just listening passively. His romantic relationships lasted longer because there was always something new to discover. But here's the crucial balance. Mystery isn't about being secretive or deceptive. It's about being selective. It's about understanding that revelation is a gift that should be given thoughtfully, not scattered freely. This works because of what psychologists call the information gap theory. When people perceive a gap between what they know and what they want to know, they become motivated to fill that gap. By maintaining some mystery, you keep people engaged and curious. Chapter 6, Strategy 5, Value Demonstration Through Withdrawal. The fifth strategy is perhaps the most powerful and the most misunderstood. Demonstrating your value through strategic withdrawal. This isn't about punishment or manipulation. It's about allowing people to experience your absence, so they can truly appreciate your presence. Epictetus taught his students, wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants. This principle applies to relationships too. Your value isn't demonstrated by how much you give, but by the quality and intentionality of what you offer. Modern behavioral economics calls this loss aversion. People feel the pain of losing something twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining it. When you strategically withdraw your presence, energy, or resources, people suddenly realize what they've been taking for granted. Let me share a detailed example. Michael was a team leader who was constantly solving problems for his team members. Every technical issue, every interpersonal conflict, every deadline challenge, Michael was there with solutions. His team had become completely dependent on him. They stopped thinking critically about problems because they knew Michael would handle it. His boss saw him as indispensable, but also as someone who couldn't delegate, limiting his promotion potential. Michael implemented what I call graduated withdrawal. He didn't abandon his team, but he began stepping back strategically. Week 1, instead of immediately solving problems, he started asking, "What do you think we should do about this?" Week 2, he began responding to non-urgent requests with, "Let me see what you come up with first, then we can discuss." Week 3, he started scheduling specific office hours instead of being available all the time. Week 4, he took a planned vacation without checking email constantly. Initially, his team panicked. They complained that he wasn't being supportive. Some even went to his boss to express concerns. But something interesting happened by week 3. Team members began collaborating with each other instead of always turning to Michael. They started solving problems creatively. Their confidence grew. And when Michael did provide input, they listened more carefully and implemented his suggestions more thoroughly. After 3 months, the team was more self-sufficient and innovative. Michael had time for strategic thinking and planning. His boss began seeing him as leadership material rather than just a problem solver. Team morale actually improved because members felt more capable and empowered. This principle works in personal relationships too. When you're always the one reaching out, planning activities, remembering important dates, or providing emotional support, you're preventing others from stepping up. Sarah applied this with her friend group. She had always been the social organizer, planning every gathering, remembering everyone's birthdays, being the glue that held the group together. Sarah began pulling back gradually. She stopped initiating group plans every weekend. She stopped being the one to remember and organize birthday celebrations. She stopped being the mediator in every friendship conflict. At first, the group met less frequently. Some members complained that Sarah wasn't being a good friend. But then something beautiful happened. Other members started stepping up. Plans began coming from different people. Birthday celebrations became more creative because different personalities were organizing them. Strategic withdrawal is not punishing people for taking you for granted, disappearing without explanation, being passive-aggressive or manipulative, abandoning responsibilities or commitments. Strategic withdrawal is creating space for others to step forward, allowing people to experience your value through contrast, protecting your energy for high-impact contributions, teaching others to be more self-reliant. How to implement this safely and ethically? Start with low-stakes situations. Communicate your boundaries clearly when possible. Withdraw gradually, not abruptly. Be prepared for initial resistance. Stay committed to your own growth and well-being. Remember, the goal isn't to make people miss you. It's to create healthier, more balanced relationships where your contributions are valued rather than expected. Chapter 7, Strategy 6, the Contrast Principle. The sixth and final strategy brings everything together. The contrast principle. This is about strategically alternating between presence and absence, engagement and withdrawal, to create a dynamic that keeps people aware of your value. The Stoics understood that life itself is about contrasts, joy and sorrow, success and failure, presence and absence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking, psychologically." This is based on adaptation theory. When people are exposed to the same stimulus repeatedly, they stop noticing it. But when you introduce variation and contrast, attention and appreciation return. Let me tell you about Anna, whose story illustrates all these principles working together. Anna was in a long-term relationship where she had become completely predictable. Same routine, same responses, same availability. Her partner had become complacent, taking her for granted, and the relationship felt stagnant. Anna began implementing the contrast principle across multiple dimensions. Availability contrast. Instead of always being free on weekends, she began making her own plans sometimes. When she was available, her partner appreciated the time more. Emotional contrast. Instead of always being the understanding, supportive partner, she began expressing her own needs and boundaries. This created space for her partner to be supportive too. Communication. Contrast. Instead of always initiating deep conversations, she began letting some interactions stay light and surface level, making the deep conversations more special. Interest contrast. Instead of always being interested in her partner's hobbies and work, she began developing her own interests and passions. This made her more interesting and gave them new things to talk about. Month 1, her partner was confused by the changes, but began paying more attention to her moods and needs. Month 2, he started making more effort to engage her interest and secure her time. Month 3, he began appreciating their time together more and expressing gratitude for her support. Month 6, the relationship had transformed into something more dynamic, reciprocal and exciting. Anna also applied this at work. Expertise. Contrast. Instead of always being the go-to person for certain skills, she began saying no sometimes and letting others develop those capabilities. Visibility contrast. Instead of always volunteering for high-visibility projects, she became more selective, making her participation more valued. Social contrast. Instead of always being available for office social events, She became more selective, making her presence more noticed and appreciated. Within a year, she received a promotion because she was seen as more strategic and valuable rather than just helpful. Her colleagues began seeking her input more thoughtfully. She had more time and energy for projects that actually advanced her career. The key to the contrast principle is timing. You need to establish patterns before breaking them. Make your absence noticeable but not concerning. Return with the same energy and value you had before. Never use contrast as punishment, only as natural variation. Don't make the contrast too extreme. This creates confusion rather than appreciation. Don't use contrast manipulatively. The goal is healthier relationships, not control. Don't be unpredictable about important commitments or responsibilities. What Anna discovered was that implementing these strategies didn't just change how others treated her. It changed how she saw herself. She began valuing her own time, energy, and contributions more highly. She developed a stronger sense of self-worth. That wasn't dependent on others, approval or attention, conclusion and call to action. So there you have it. 6 powerful strategies that will make people realize how much they miss you when you're not constantly available. But remember, these aren't manipulation tactics. They're principles of healthy relationship dynamics based on Stoic wisdom and modern psychology. Let's quickly recap. Selective availability. Be choosy about your time and energy. Strategic silence. Let others fill the conversational space sometimes. Healthy emotional boundaries. Don't be everyone's emotional support system. Maintain mystery. Not everything about you needs to be known immediately. Strategic withdrawal. Let people experience your absence to appreciate your presence. The contrast principle. Vary your patterns to maintain interest and appreciation. If you implement these principles with integrity and consistency, you'll notice people treating you with more respect, seeking your company more intentionally, and valuing your contributions more highly. But more importantly, you'll develop a stronger sense of your own worth that doesn't depend on others' validation. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these strategies resonates most with your current situation? Have you tried any of these before? What results did you see? If this video helped you understand something new about relationship dynamics, hit that like button and subscribe for more content on psychology, Stoicism, and personal development. And here's your homework. Pick one strategy from today's video and implement it consistently for the next 30 days. Don't try to do everything at once. Master one principle at a time. Remember, the goal isn't to make people miss you. It's to create relationships where your presence is valued rather than expected. That's the difference between healthy boundaries and manipulation. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and remember, your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to see it.